Me now, Democratic Senator from Minnesota, Amy Klobuchar, who attended the oral arguments on the tariff case. She's also the ranking member of the Agriculture Committee and a member of the Judiciary Committee. Senator, good to have you on the show.
Thanks, Antonia.
Of course. So before we get to the Supreme Court ruling, I want to get your reaction to the president's vow to impose tariffs, despite what we heard from the Supreme Court this morning.
Once again, he tries to defy every legal constraint, whether it is in statute or the Constitution. He literally called some of the most conservative justices in American history, Gorsuch, Amy Coney Barrett, Justice Roberts. He called them lapdogs. He called them unpatriotic. He literally said they were swayed by foreign interests when all they were doing was looking at the law and calling it as it was. And that is that these tariffs that he imposed were reckless and they were against the law. That statute he used doesn't even mention the word tariff. And he has created the chaos now, the chaos before, the chaos we're about to see. And as your guests have mentioned, this is like $1,700 per family in America that they had to pay extra last year because of this. The markets for our farmers are drying up. One called it a perfect storm of ugly. And all he can do is blame everyone but himself. He's blaming the people that brought the case, a small business toy owner in Pennsylvania, or someone that produces fishing apparel in Utah, and going after them personally. He's going after I guess, the Chamber of Commerce, who also called this as it was, which was that these tariffs are reckless and illegal.
Senator, the reality is that while some businesses are celebrating, of course, today, there's a sense of relief for many. The landscape is still very uncertain. As Ari, Lisa, so many of my friends just spelled out, what do you think the most realistic next steps and path forward is? If you are a business desperate to get some of your money back, and not just your money back, but hopefully some interest too, what can you actually do right now?
Well, I think people will begin to file claims. Most of these people are importers. In some cases, they have passed it on to consumers. In some cases, they haven't. That's why the answer is no. People aren't going to get their $1,700 from last year back from what Trump charged with his tariffs because of how this has all worked and how he did it. But at the same time, I thought the scariest part, in addition to the continued assault on the rule of law and the Constitution from his press conference, was that he plans to continue doing this. The processes and the statutes that he could have used and other presidents have used, he doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to conduct these investigations. He knows a lot of this won't hold up. So he's talking about using another statute, this Section 122. Under that statute, if it is even legal to use, under the words of the statute, Congress, after a certain period of time, a shorter period of time, would be able to decide to not extend the tariffs. And you've recently seen Congress step in on my bill with Tim Kaine and Rand Paul and say, nope, nope, nope. We're not going to have these tariffs on Canada anymore. So I think you're starting to see bipartisan opposition to the president's tariffs, which would affect this 150 days under this new statute that he's throwing out. So what he's done is just double down and trying to make it worse, which of course is going to create more chaos and costs for the American people.
Realistically, for lawmakers like yourself, tell me a bit about the work ahead to repair relationships. I mean, the tariffs, of course, have been kind of used by the president like a cudgel, whether it's over Greenland or, of course, his different disagreements and sort of petty fights with different countries like Canada. I'm curious, though, the tariffs, of course, aren't even the only piece of the anger and the tension there. We've seen these countries then start to build new trade routes and relationships with each other, leaving us at times a little bit in the cold. So even if these tariffs, they go away and things are able to normalize a bit for people here domestically, it seems like we're still internationally in quite a mess when it comes to our relationships.
That's a euphemism. I look at our friendly neighbors, Canada, have been our best trading partners. In my state, they eclipse the next 2, 3, 4 combined. And what he's done there, it's not just the tariffs, as you point out, the rhetoric of the 51st state and the like, has made individual Canadians say, you know what, we're not going to go on vacation in America. We're going to spend money elsewhere, and their prime minister, who is very smart, has started to decide, I'm going to start looking, our government's going to start looking at making trade agreements with other countries because we no longer see America as a reliable partner. I want to change that. I went with Republican Senator Kramer and a number of other senators to Canada and met with the Prime Minister months ago to make our case. But it is very difficult for members of Congress, of either party really, to be able to go in and say we want to be friends even though we mean it, when we've got a president who repeatedly sends out things on Truth Social going after our friends and allies, and embraces instead. I mean, you look at what he's done. One of the things that I think is most corrupt about this tariff power that he's been using illegally, as pointed out by the Supreme Court today, is, say, Brazil. We have a trade surplus with them. And he smacked on a 40% tariff because he didn't like that they were prosecuting his buddy. Those are the kinds of things he's done that make us seem very unreliable as trade partners. And all we need to do is to put a check on him in the midterms, make sure that we support the courts, whether we agree with them or not, that we have an independent 3 branches of government constitutional system that is so important. And then we reach out when we can to our allies and say, look, this does not reflect where everyone in America is, and certainly doesn't reflect where a number of our business leaders are.
And hope that they buy that and hold on to that message for long enough. They're not to
We've
be
got to
very,
make it through
very
this
long
time.
term. Well, Minnesota
well,
Senator.
You know, maybe what's okay. I mean, the public is so mad at him right now. If you look at the numbers with the cost chaos and corruption, that maybe he needs to look at those numbers. Maybe he needs to look at where he's driving our economy down into a spiral with manufacturing jobs and costs, and then rethink what he's doing, because the Supreme Court, in many ways, has given him a gift. He can start fresh, and he doesn't have to keep assessing these tariffs, which have created great costs for the people of America.
Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar, great to have you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up.